rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. So for those of you, and I think I recognize most of the faces out there, for those of you who don't know or don't remember, my name is Drew Smith. I'm the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate for the city. My role in the proceedings today is to be the independent trier of fact. I'm not a lawyer who works for the city. I am hired for this role as magistrate. So my role is to hear the facts, the evidence of the cases, and then at the end of each case, I will enter a verbal ruling. That will be followed in the mail by a written ruling that will conform to what I announce here in the proceedings today. You will receive all of those usually within a few days of the hearing date today. As far as order of proceeding, the Code Enforcement Department or the Code Enforcement officers will present their case first. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask the Code Enforcement officer, factual questions you'd like to ask the Code Enforcement officer, you'll have that opportunity. Otherwise, when the Code Enforcement Department is done presenting their case, the respondent will have an opportunity to present anything to me you'd like me to hear and present any evidence you would like me to see. With that, Clerk, you may call our first case.
Case number 2020-701, ADMC Designs LLC owner, location of violation 1033 New York, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation St. Cloud Land Development Code sections 3.3.1F and 13.3. Description of violation: failure to prohibit but rather allowed construction prior to obtaining a permit.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mitch, I just was reminding you of the swearing in of the witnesses before we begin, of course.
If anybody who is going to give testimony today would rise and raise your right hand, please. Do you all swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Diana Durbin with the City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement. At your request, I am presenting this case for 1033 New York Avenue for an updated status. The permit was obtained by LBS Construction Services as of 3/16/21, permit number B00005542. This location is now in compliance. Would you like me to reread any part of the case?
Just refresh my memory. Give me the facts of it. So this was a failure to, I remember, was this property rented?
No. This property was had a door installed without a permit, and they went through the process of having a permit. And then after the time that we met, they found out that they were with a historical society, so they had to go through that process before they could get the permit. So they finally have obtained the permit as of yesterday.
And did they move diligently through that process?
It did take a while. It was a slow process. They had a lot of issues getting a contractor because the door has already been installed. So they did have a lot of work on their end having to get that permit.
Were they able to keep the door that they installed prior to permits, or did they have
No,
to
they
change
will
it
have
out?
to reinstall that.
So they have the permits in hand, but they have not yet made the
No,
modifications
I had
to
just talked to her
conform the
earlier
permit.
today. She called me, and I think she said the 22nd of March is when they will have it installed.
Okay. Is the city asking for any findings today?
Yes.
And what are you asking for?
For the cost incurred of $213.60. And then we have $250 a day times 166 days, which is $41,500, and then the total is $41,713.60. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And on behalf of the city, obviously, the magistrate has the discretion to move forward. But really, the city's primarily interested in the finding of noncompliance, of course.
Which we already have in this case. We have a finding
That's
of
right,
noncompliance.
which we've achieved. So it would be, you had requested the mass hearing to determine any fine to be imposed. Certainly, the costs of $213.40 would be something that the city would like to recover in addition to whatever the magistrate feels is appropriate. And I know the respondent is here
Yes.
as well.
And with the administrative costs, are those the same administrative costs that did I impose administrative costs or include administrative costs in my findings of fact? Do you have a?
Yes.
I did. Was it the 21360 was the same number?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so those have been assessed, not imposed. Okay, let me hear from the respondent, and then I may bring you back up.
Hi there, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I'm not used to
You don't have to
speaking in
be
front of
nervous.
people. My name's Catherine Irene Satiris. I am the managing director or director of operations of ADMC, the corporate company. I do not work at the hotel. Our general manager does. Just a quick background so you can understand from our point, because I appreciate everybody at the city, and we've been working with them, because as many people are aware, we not only own the Hunter Arms, but we are remodeling the St. Cloud Hotel, which is a very big project at this point. When this happened, none of us were aware that our general manager had given permission to somebody to do this door. I'm not really aware of building codes, so what happened was, it happened in March 2020. There was COVID, everything was kind of crazy. When this happened, we told her, she said, I can take care of everything, I will handle it. We gave her the time to do so, and then by the time she came back in front of you guys in September, she hadn't figured out how to do it. She told me we were getting fined, and I stepped in from corporate. It did take me every bit of that 6 months of figuring out how everything goes, asking questions, we had a contractor, but he doesn't put in the doors, finding a door to be made. That took me about 2.5 months because I got shut down no more than 30 times by other companies to manufacture the door. And I was finally able to find someone who would, and it was about $5,000, and I just said, you know what, we don't care at this point, we just want to get it done and be in compliance. So right now, we have the door is in. I have a thing showing that it's been paid, we're just waiting for the install. We received the permit just the other day and wanted to complete everything and to show you guys in good faith that this is not something we want to happen again, and now we understand things a little bit better, and that corporate is completely behind the city, and I've just tried to remedy this as quickly as possible while doing my job as well.
So help me understand the delay from, and I'm not looking to cast blame on anybody, I'm just
Yes.
looking to understand. The delay from the first order, from that point to getting the permits issued, because I heard a little bit from code enforcement, the Historical Society, that may have contributed to that delay, and I want
It
to
did.
understand that.
So until we started getting fined, I was under the impression, and so was everybody else, that our general manager, who takes care of everything at the hotel and is in charge and works closely with the city, was handling it. Until she came back for that appointment here in September and we started getting fined, she finally came and said, I haven't gotten anywhere with it, I don't know what I'm doing. And in September, when I took over, it was probably about the 15th or 16th, it took me a couple weeks to get everything into the historic department. I got a drawing, I had to create the door because it's an old building. So between September and about October 10th was when I was gathering all that information, getting the drawings, and I submitted it to the historic board somewhere between the 10th and 15th. I ended up receiving the approval back from the historic board the end of November. So once I had that approval, then I had to move forward with obtaining the door, which took me a month and a half because I was calling, trying to get a company to manufacture it, and I got told no time and time and time again.
Okay, and then the application for the permit, that was made on March 16th, or was that's when the permit was issued, was March 16th? You know when you made the application for
Right,
the
I had
permit?
actually, when I took over in September, because I didn't know kind of how everything was supposed to go, while I was trying to before I found out about the historic board and how I had to go through them, I actually applied for one back then. But then because everything else, like I had to get the drawing approved and then find the door manufacturer, that one was then thrown out because I didn't have anything else to go in the correct order. That's why the permit was I had reapplied back sometime in January, and then I had to correct it because, like I said, it's a learning process for me, and I've asked the questions, but I get a partial answer here, a partial answer there. I try to correct it, and then I find out I might have not have put something in correctly, or I needed somebody else or another contractor. So, I mean, if you could talk to Joe Dupree, anyone in, I've talked to everybody, Lucy and Gabe and everyone in not code enforcement and the building department. So they really like held my hand through this. It was kind of, it was a learning process, but I had to learn on the job without anybody to go to say, how do I fix this immediately?
I'm going to ask the code enforcement officer a couple more questions.
Sure.
I think she has something, if you could let her, but maybe don't go too far, because I may or may not, but I might have more questions for you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the original permit was submitted on 9/22 of '20. And then the historical submission was submitted on 9/22 also, but it was disapproved on the 10/20. And then they sent it back on 11/12. The historical preservation, after the resubmittal, they disapproved it again on 11/12. And then it was resubmitted on 1/22 of '21, and it was finally approved on 3/9 of '21. So she's had several submissions and disapproves, and then it's been going back and forth, because then once that was approved, the building plan was resubmitted on 2/11. It was disapproved again on 2/22. It was resubmitted on 3/5, and then it was just finally approved, yesterday. So it has been submitted and resubmitted several times.
So I hear a case where the respondent has been working fairly diligently from the time that I entered my order. It sounds like maybe there were some staffing issues or knowledge-based issues with the staff assigned. So with that in mind, definitely not going to impose a $41,000 lien today. What I am inclined to do, and I will tell both of you, and if the city or the respondent has reasons to think that what I'm inclined to do, it does not sound equitable to either one of you, please let me know, because there were errors here, and so I am going to impose something, not your errors, and I want to make that clear. This is not about you. It sounds like you jumped in and did what you could. I am also sensitive to the fact with some people who are from out of state, come from out of state, headquartered out of state, don't recognize that in Florida, yes, you have to have a permit to install a door because of hurricanes, and that is not the case everywhere else. So I understand that error gets made. I don't see anything in this case from the time that it first came to me that would be an aggravating factor that would incline me towards a higher lien. So I am going to reassert the costs that have already been awarded in 213. Did you say 60 or 40 on costs?
60.
213.60. And I'm also going to impose a $500 fine for a total of $213.60. I think that's equitable in this case. But again, if either of you, the city or the respondent, have reason to believe that that's inequitable, please let me know and we can talk further about it.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Case number 2020-1809, Great House Pros, Inc., owner, location of violation, 500 Wisconsin Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation, Land Development Code, Sections 3.3.1D. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed. 2, permits for this property to expire at this location with work already started, with only one inspection completed between both permits.
Good afternoon, Pam Neal, City of St. Cloud Code Enforcement Officer. I am presenting this case for the property located at 500 Wisconsin Avenue. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copy of the notice violation sent to the owner, copy of the notice violation sent by certified mail to the owner, a copy of the notice violation with the new date sent to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall, a copy of the notice violation with the new date sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, copy of the affidavits of postings, the certified mail receipts, a copy of the deed to the property, copy of the code section in violation, copy of the cost incurred if the special magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $252.35. The respondent is here today, too.
Before you start, I recognize the respondent, but this is unrelated to the prior case.
Yes, sir. On September 22nd, 2020, while on routine patrol, I noticed the house at this location had been under construction since February of 2019, with no work being completed. I checked, and the permits for the residential repairs and alterations had expired on July 14th of 2020, and the permit for the electrical work had expired on April 25th, 2020. And there was 2 photos. On September 24th, a notice violation was sent to the owner. On October 9th, I checked the permits, and they were still expired. On October 9th, a notice of violation was sent to the owner by certified mail. On October 22nd, I called the owner, and he asked for more time because he needed to find a new contractors. On November 12th, I called the owner, and he asked for more time. On November 30th, I checked and the permits had still expired. On December 7th, I called the owner, and he stated he was going to sell the house. I told him he could not sell the house with an open code violation on the property. So on December 11th and 17th, I checked and the permits were still expired. I took 1 photo. On December 17th, a notice violation with the new date was sent to the owner and posted on the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed. On December 31st, I checked and the permits were still expired. On January 4th, the owner called me and stated he was going to work on getting the permits renewed, and I told him I would give him until January 21st. On January 25th, I called the owner, left him a message to call me as soon as possible concerning the permits. On February 1st, a notice violation with the new date was sent to the owner by certified mail and posted on the property and City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed. I took 3 photos. You can see he did some work on the front of the house.
Is the front of the house part of the permits that have expired?
Yes. On February 10th, I checked the permits were still expired. On February 12th, a statement of violation notice of hearing was sent by certified mail to the owner and posted on the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was completed. I took 1 photo. On March 8th, I checked. The permits were still expired, so I took 2 more photos. I just took the photos just so you would see that it was still pretty much the same, except for the front there. On March 10th, Officer Miller observed contractors working on the house. She explained to them that no work was allowed until the permits were renewed and obtained. And she took 2 photos. On March 15th, I checked. The permits were still expired, and I had not heard anything from the owner. I took 2 more photos. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of having 2 permits expire over 180 days from the date of assurance and not correcting the violation within the specified time. Give the respondent until March 31st, 2021 to renew both permits or pay a fine of $250 a day until compliance is met. The city would like to also recover the costs incurred in bringing the case before the special magistrate in the amount of $252.35 to be paid within 7 days of the written order of the magistrate as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Just one question for you. In your statement of fees and costs, do you have that in front of you?
What
Your
was
statement
that?
of fees and costs, your spreadsheet where you go down your list of fees that the city's incurred?
Of the costs incurred, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Number there is $250.35. Unless you tell me otherwise, that's the number I'm going to rely on, just a difference of $2 between that and your request, but just making sure that,
Yeah, it should be 252.35, but
I'll go with that number. I'm just going down, I ran down the list and I get 250.35. $2, but I'll go with a lower number. I'm sure you won't complain. I just wanted to make sure that,
okay.
okay,
The respondent is here.
respondent.
Good afternoon. I don't know if I have to say anything. Everything Officer Pam said was right. I definitely agree with the fee. I think the one thing I just wanted to acknowledge, I did close up the front of the house because several neighbors had, I drove by one time and several neighbors had stated they saw school kids kind of running in and out of the property and they were concerned about it being a hazard. So I'd asked the gentleman just to close up the front so it wouldn't be wide open and we have any source of injury with it. And so I didn't get a chance to notify Officer Pam that I had done the work, and that definitely was my fault. But I have ceased from any other work on the property. I got the existing plans that were drawn on it back in 2019. They had to be updated to the new building code. I did that back in January. And then February 11th, we submitted all the plans. I got a new contractor that submitted the package for this property on February 11th, along with Carolina, which was my other trouble property. Both of them I had trouble with from COVID. As of yesterday and today, I've been working with Sam Leonardo, I always mess her name up, at the building department, and we've been held up for about the last 3.5 weeks since we submitted, well, 4 weeks now, since we submitted for that permit, because they have not been able to get the prior contractor a response from him to vacate the prior permits. They've called, they've emailed, they've written, they've not gotten any response. I've done the same. So I talked with Sam 5 minutes before I got in here. I was like, Sam, I'm like, help me. I'm going before the magistrate again. And I don't want to be a repeat offender. Is there anything else that we can do? So Sam said she's going to escalate it to her supervisor since, you know, we've allotted reasonable time. And I definitely don't want Officer Pam to have to continue to walk by, snap photos of it. But she's been awesome. She's called and definitely sent me all the notices. I've gotten everything. I've been hustling on my end to get this one submitted. I also had Carolina, unrelated to this case, also submitted. So just waiting to see on when the building department can release the prior permits that had expired. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Same as the last case. You just step a few feet that way, because I want to ask the code enforcement officer a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Can we
Say
have
say
his
again?
name?
Step over.
Yeah, sure.
Can we have his name?
Oh,
for the
and your
record
name
then?
for the record, please.
My name is Aubrey Kipp, and I'm owner of Great House Bros.
Thank you.
So as far as, are you familiar with where he is in the process of permitting?
When I looked Monday, I hadn't seen anything. It still was showing expired with no kind of paperwork turned in. I don't know if it's on Sam's desk. I don't know.
Okay. So my only concern on this one, it sounds like it's moving in the right direction, and that makes me happy. My concern is the March 31 compliance date, and that's permits reissued by March 31. I understand the contractor issue, but I also understand code enforcement's perspective. This has been dragging on for some time. So if I could have the respondent to the microphone for a second, sorry, guys. Do you foresee a problem with where you are in the process with your contractor? I know you've got that one issue hanging out of
Yes, sir.
working through the old contractor getting off of the job, formally off
Sure.
of the job. Do you think you can work with the March 31 deadline?
That would really be dependent on Sam. So I kind of escalated it. I've been to the building department either via phone call or in person probably twice a week for the last, I want to say last 2.5 weeks. And when the other officer basically stopped the guys that were out there, I got really alarmed. So I emailed the building department, then went down there, and Sam said she's going to escalate to the supervisor tomorrow. In terms of survey, updated plans, GC, workers, everything on our end is ready to go. We just need to be reviewed. And I asked Sam if at least there was like a pending permit number. She's like, we can't even give you a pending permit number until this one that's currently on there is vacated. So she's going to see if, Sam is going to see if her supervisor can maybe prescribe an alternate measure for us. Maybe I can write a notarized letter as the owner. I don't know. But the 31st seems like it would be pushing it because from what Sam told me, they haven't even reviewed the plans, the updated plans or anything yet. And that's typically a couple of weeks just for review, much less getting the prior contractor off of there.
I see code enforcement was something to tell me.
Yeah.
Yes, the city doesn't have a problem extending it till like April 17th because it is taking the building department quite some time to approve permits.
Okay, so does that seem more reasonable for you? Okay. So based on the evidence testimony provided, I'm going to find in favor of the city, find that the respondent is in violation for having 2 expired permits. Order the respondent to come into compliance by April 17th, 2021. If not brought into compliance, a fine of up to $250 per day may be imposed. I'm going to do on this one, though, what we did on the last one, because of all the moving pieces. I don't want to do an imposition of fines based on affidavit alone. I want to give the respondent on this one an opportunity if something happens in this process, because we've got narrow time frames and a lot of moving pieces. And that outside contractor, I know that gives a lot of people a problem, and that's a hard one to work through. So I'm going with the April 17th date. I'm going with those fines of up to $250. But if we're going to impose them and create a lien, I want to have another evidentiary hearing first, is all that I'm saying.
Okay.
And also will order the respondent to pay the city's administrative costs in the amount of $250.35 as reflected in the worksheet. And any further questions for me? Anything else? Yes, if you would, microphone, just so she can pick it up on the recording.
So on my sister property with this one, I never received a notice on where I could pay the fines. I'm not sure who to call.
Did you get me the order that I signed? It says in there, but Claudia can give you a card, and this is the person to reach out to get the administrative costs
Yeah,
paid.
so maybe I can knock both of those out at the same time.
You certainly may.
Awesome, thank you.
You have to call me before you come over. Okay, please, thank you. Case number 2020-2141, Paola Michelle Santiago Albert, owner, location of violation 2461 Wadeview Loop, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation St. Cloud Land Development Code, sections 3.3.1F and 13.3. Description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed construction of a fence at this location prior to obtaining a permit.
Good afternoon, Melissa Howes, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of St. Cloud. I am presenting this case for the property located at 2461 Wadeview Loop. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: a copy of the courtesy notice of violation, copy of the notice of violation, copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail, copy of the notice of violation posted on the property and City Hall, copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, posted on the property and City Hall, a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, affidavit of postings, evidence of mailings, the code sections in violation of, a copy of the deed to the property, and a copy of the cost incurred if the magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $226.90. The respondent is not here. On November 2nd, 2020, during routine patrol, I checked for fence permits in the entire subdivision of Pinewood Gardens. This property had a fence, and upon checking for a permit was applied for back on June 29th, but had been disapproved. On November 4th, I sent out a courtesy notice of violation to the owner of record, advising the permit was disapproved and the fence was already up and needed to obtain the permit within 10 working days. On November 23rd, a reinspection was performed and the violation was not corrected. That same day, I sent out a notice of violation to the owner to obtain the permit within 10 working days. On December 14th and again on December 16th, I checked the permit records. Nothing had been resubmitted for approval of the fence permit. On December 16th, I sent out a notice of violation by certified mail advising the owner to obtain the permit. On January 6, 2021, still no permit obtained, and due to not receiving the certified mailing card back signed for, I created a notice of violation, posted it on the property and City Hall. I did an affidavit of posting, and I took 3 photographs showing the fence. On January 20th, I again checked the permit records and the owner submitted new documents to the building department for approval. I extended the case for the approval process for 3 weeks. On February the 10th, I checked the status of the permit, and on January 22nd, I checked the status of the permit, and on January 22nd, the zoning department had disapproved the resubmittal documents, stating that the fence could not be placed outside the property lines. I went by the property to make sure the fence was still there, and 3 photographs were taken showing that it was. On February 11th, I sent out a statement of violation and notice of hearing by certified mail to the owner of record. I posted the property in City Hall. I did an affidavit of posting and took 3 more photos. On February 11th, that same day, I posted the property. I received a phone message from the owner to call him. I have called him several times to return his call. However, there was no answer and he had no mailbox set up for voicemail. On March 15th, a reinspection was performed and the permit has not been obtained. I have still not spoken to the owner of the property. So it's the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of the construction of a fence prior to obtaining a permit. Give the respondent until April 2nd, 2021 to obtain a permit or pay a fine in the amount of $100 a day until compliance is met. The city would also request that the costs incurred in bringing this case before the magistrate in the amount of $226.90 to be paid within 7 days of the written order by the special magistrate. And that concludes my presentation.
So other than that one call from the owner that he never called you back after returning, you
No,
haven't
and
had any
I've tried
communication?
probably 10 times since then, and no answer and no mailbox set up, so I couldn't even leave a message.
And so there have been 2 submittals, application submittals, and both have been denied, I'm guessing for the same reason, for just the boundary line issue. Okay, based on the evidence testimony presented, I'll find in favor of the city, find the respondent is in violation for work without permits, allow the respondent until April 2nd, 2021 to obtain permit for the fence. If not obtained by that time, a fine of $100 per day shall run until compliance is met. Also order the respondent to pay the administrative costs incurred by the city in the amount of $226.90, which amount shall be due within 7 days of my order.
Thank you, sir.
Case number 2021-43, Ashflar and Nirmala Shoemango, owner, location of violation 1340 Creekview Court, St. Cloud, Florida. Violation St. Cloud Development Code Section 3.3.1 and 13.3, description of violation, failure to prohibit but rather allowed the installation of a shed prior to obtaining a permit at this location.
Good afternoon. Code Enforcement Officer Miller for the City of St. Cloud. I'm presenting the case for the property located at 1340 Creekview Court. At this time, I would like to enter into evidence the following items: copies of the notice of violation sent by regular mail, copy of the notice of violation sent by certified mail, copy of the statement of violation and notice of hearing sent by certified mail, affidavit of postings, copy of the PowerPoint presentation, evidence on mailings, copy of the code sections in violation, and a copy of the deed to the property, and a copy of the costs incurred if the magistrate finds the respondent in violation in the amount of $220.70, and the respondent is not here. On January 5th, 2021, Code Enforcement received a complaint about a shed that was installed at this location prior to obtaining a permit. I researched the permit records and could not find a permit application on file. I did an inspection of the property and observed a shed on the south side of the property was installed. On January 5th, I mailed a notice of violation by regular mail to the owners on record and gave the owners 7 working days to obtain a permit for the shed. On January 12th, I received a call from the owner stating that he will be applying for the permit for the shed, and at this time, I advised the owner that he needed to contact the building department to inquire about the requirements for the application. He stated once again that he will be applying for the permit. On January 28th, I checked the permitting records. No permit application had been submitted. I mailed a notice of violation by certified mail to the owners on record requesting to obtain a permit within 7 working days. On February 12th, I checked the permitting records and no permit application had been submitted. A notice of violation was sent by regular mail to the owners to correct the violation within 7 working days. I posted the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was created and took 1 photo. On February 15, I received a phone call from the owner stating that he was going through some personal matters, but he will be submitting the application to the building department. On February 26, I checked the permit records and I verified that an incomplete permit application had been submitted on February 22nd, and he was advised by the supervisor from the building department that his application was incomplete. The owner advised that he will be returning the same day with the rest of the paperwork. After issuing a permit number, the application has remained in disapproved status. On March 1st, a statement of violation and notice of hearing was sent by certified mail to the owners on record, giving the owners 7 working days to comply. I posted the property in City Hall. An affidavit of posting was created, and I took 4 photos. As of March 15, I verified that the application is still in disapproved status. It is the city's recommendation that the respondent be found in violation of not obtaining a permit for the shed that was installed at this location by the time specified. The city will also recommend that the respondent be given until March 31st, 2021 to obtain the proper permit or remove the shed, or a fine in the amount of $100 a day be assessed until compliance is met. The city will also request that the cost incurred in bringing the case before the magistrate in the amount of $220.70 to be paid within 7 days of the written order by the special magistrate. And this concludes my presentation.
So this looks like this is a shed they built on site. This isn't just a prefab shed that they.
No, sir, no, it's just, they built the shed. He said the owner, he built them himself.
Okay. Based on the evidence testimony presented, I will find in favor of the city, find that the respondent is in violation for work without permits. Order the city to obtain building permit for the shed by March 31st, 2021, or otherwise remove the shed from the property. If that is not complied with, a fine in the amount of $100 per day shall begin to accrue and continue to accrue until compliance is met. Also order the respondent to pay the city's administrative costs in the amount of $220.70, which amount shall be due within 7 days of my order.
Thank you.
Unfinished business, request for reduction of lien under $50,000. Case number 2020-1503, Quails Group LLC, location of violation 611 Kentucky Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida.
Afternoon, Jack Morrison for the city. There is a request here for a reduction and settlement on a case that was heard by you back in late summer, date of the hearing was October 21st of last year. It was a grass and weeds violation resulting in a $100 per day fine from October 30th until compliance would be met, which was achieved on December 29th of last year, accruing a total of $5,900 in fines. The respondent has submitted a proposal to the city manager, which has been accepted as proposed by the city manager for payment of half of that accrued amount, which is proposal being paid $2,950 within 30 days of approval by you, Your Honor, as this is under $50,000. The respondent made this proposal through its representative, Mr. Nutt, who I believe is here, if you wish to hear from Mr. Nutt, but the city is willing to accept that payment within those time parameters as full settlement of the matter.
Okay. And so the $2,950, that's inclusive of everything?
That's inclusive of everything.
I don't have to hear from the respondent. I think that's a fair settlement of the case, but if you'd like to say anything, you certainly have the opportunity to.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay. Then I will approve that settlement of the fines, and I'll enter an order to that effect. And I assume the city is requesting, unless you tell me otherwise, I will include language to the effect that if it's not paid within 30 days, the fine amount will revert back
Yes,
to you.
exactly. That was part of the agreement. Yes, yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay.
New business, none. Next scheduled meeting, April 21st, 2021.
And we may be in chambers again for that.
Correct, yes.
Anything else from the clerk?
Nope.
Anything else from code enforcement? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.